What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Miss Sophia the Diva, and I am here to do a combined review of Queen Sugar episodes 9 and 10. I fell behind on my reviews due to myself being under the weather, but I did want to cover both episodes. The episode 9 was titled Next to Nothing, which of course covers the aftermath of the storm. As you know, when we last left off, there was a storm going on outside, but there was an even bigger storm going on the inside. But we kind of see a resolution between Charlie and her sister Nova in episode 9. And then in episode 10, there is still the rebuilding process after the hurricane, and that is when some discoveries are made about the Bordelon property and why Mr. Ernest literally worked himself to death to hold on to that property, which is why he did not want his children to be so fast to sell the property. Episode 10 was called So Far. So episode 9, we can kind of speed through and highlight essentially what happened. Hollywood and Aunt Vi. The episode essentially opens with Aunt Vi looking outside and just pretty much everyone going outside and looking at the devastation. Actually, no. This episode opens with Remy asking Miss Charlie, how did she sleep? And I was like, ooh, I'm sure she slept pretty good when she was in your arms, Big Daddy. Standing out on the porch with Hollywood is Aunt Vi. And of course, she still has her reservations about him because he did, in fact, lie to her about the fact that he was still married. Or at least he could have, at the very least, said, I'm separated, but he never did. He says, as long as we're alive, we can always recover. And to me, that was kind of a double saying, because it's like we're both still alive and we can recover and salvage our relationship. Nova even makes mention of this to her Aunt Vi, because Aunt Vi is kind of in her feelings still, a little devastated by what's going on. And even Nova imparts this thing of regrowth and rebirth. And says, you know, just whatever has been uprooted can be replanted, Aunt Vi. So I think that I love the dynamic between their aunt and her nieces and nephew. I love that dynamic. I think it's wonderful. So there is discussion about going out to check the harvest because, you know, they're already behind. Charlie, which we speculated last week something was going to happen to those migrant workers that were working on the farm, and unfortunately something did. Prior to that, there's discussion about pumping water off of the harvest, but Remy says the way that I designed my sugar cane, I designed it so that there wouldn't be a need to farmers to ever have to pump water off. But Ralph Angel is like, better to be safe than sorry. And I think that's good because this is a first time experiment, Remy, so it's only fair. Unfortunately, just, you know, y'all saw in the previews of that particular episode, it's like, shock, horror. Well, they should be shocked. I was like, are those dead bodies? Oh my God, did they get struck? Those are gunshot wounds. 2 fellow migrant farmers were found dead in the fields. And essentially what happened is that these 2 men were they gotten paid, because of course they done paid them in cash, and were trying to cut through. And unfortunately they met a very fatal end. Charlie feels all kind of guilt because she's like, if I had just let them go when you guys told me to, they probably would still be alive. When the sheriff comes by to do his investigation, unfortunately, Charlie doesn't even know who's working for her. And it was shocking. None of the Borderline siblings knew who they were. Although Ralph Angel did know. He hiding out in the damn kitchen, which I advise, like, you can't, but I'm like, Avi's like, you can't run from them forever. But I'm like, Avi, you don't understand. Once you come across the cops, they ain't no friend of mine. That's what Ralph Angel had to be thinking. So eventually he does go out and show his face. because it does look a little bit guilty. My question at first, were they dead farmers or stowaways, like someone just trying to find shelter? And I found that it to be a very humbling lesson with her. I'm like, girl, this is not LA, this is Louisiana. When weather hits, you have to let people go. In the end, we found out that Nova found a new purpose for this. And in addition to covering stories about how the justice system is unfair to black youth and black males in general, or just blacks, period, if you really think about it. The prisons are crowded more so with us and Hispanics than anything. But she finds a new purpose. You know, she's talking to the sheriff, trying to find out what, if anything, is going to happen. Is there going to be any type of liability that's going to attach? So Nova's new story is basically going to be about covering undocumented workers, which is a story that needs to be told. Just to plug in here, if anyone has not been watching it, I would suggest that you watch Epics. On that channel, there is a wonderful documentary that I believe Shonda Rhimes, Jesse Williams, Norman Lear are all attached as far as producing, as well as Norman Lear and Jesse Williams can be seen telling the stories. But America Ferrera, I believe it is. Forgive me, I'm so sorry. But you remember her from Ugly Betty. She does the undocumented workers, and it's really intriguing. And, I find it so interesting how cruel America can be to people trying to come over here to make a better life. When you think about when they left England, they came over here to make a better life, right? So it's, especially, part of the settlers and stuff like that, they wanted to get away from the queen and her rule and start and be able to freely worship and do what they like. So Nova tells Charlie, as she has a moment of breakdown, that you had a choice, and there you go. But it's good to see that no matter how much siblings fight, that they still are united. Darla is still pooching around the house. We learned that the roads are still closed, so that's why she can't be there. And Vi still don't want her in the house or anywhere near Blue. Then there's some new people that show up to help with the cleanup and the pickup. Y'all know Micah's straight up a city boy. He don't know anything about country life, which I'm glad he's being exposed to this, because I think it's very helpful and good for him. But Boogie and Kiki show up. Now, Boogie apparently, Boogie, why can't I say this man's name? Boogie apparently is a friend of the family. He's coming by. And I thought that also showed community in the wake of devastation, how he came by in his pickup truck to help them recover. In the meantime, Micah is making nice with Sister Kiki, honey. And I say Sister Kiki because one of the kids that I used to work with, her name was Kiki. And he's always, Sister Kiki! So Sister Kiki, honey, she wants to let Micah know that she wants to get with him, basically. I was like, go ahead, Micah, get you that southern gal. Look at, he ain't never seen nothing like that before. Unlike that little heifer he was messing around with, child. One of the saddest parts about this is that despite the fact that there is a language barrier, they were able to communicate with the other farmers what happened to their friends in the fields. And it's very sad and it's very tragic. And they were like, well, how do we tell them? And me, I was like, girl, in my broken Spanish, I would be like, su amigos están muerta. See? Entiendo? Okay. But Ralph Angel is very resourceful. I think her name is Miss Velez or Miss Velez. No, is it Miss Velez? Anyways, Ralph Angel has a thought and says, okay, well, let me call somebody I know speaks Spanish, okay, because me and my little broken Spanish ain't going to make it either. So I was like, there's Miss V, Blue's teacher, because I absolutely love her, because she stepped in a time of tragedy to help out. So, she was able once again in another time of tragedy to deliver the fatal news that the friend was gone. They found out details about these people, and Charlie was so brokenhearted. And I thought it was very, very big of Charlie to be like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the bodies back to the family, and I don't care how much it cost. And so it was just really, really sad. So it was just like, was a very sad and humbling and moment uh, for them to learn of their friend. And in Spanish, please forgive me because I took high school. No, I took, yeah, I was an international business major in college, but I also took it in high school, and then I'm also taking it in, I took Spanish in undergrad, but I still wasn't very good at it. But elevamos nuestras preces. Let us pray. And I thought that was such a beautiful scene. They do such a good job with the lighting and the direction and the camera angles. I mean, that's one of the things that will attract you to Queen Sugar. Darla wants to see Blue more, but she talking about he wore her out. I was like, well, girl, if he wearing you out, how are you going to be a mama to him? Okay, this is what Blue does. He's an energetic 6-year-old. Okay, get into it. Darla talking about she could watch him all the time. And I was like you did when you were turning tricks and getting high. Girl, bye. Vi, there's still pressure on her once again to sign the papers. I personally, and comment down below, I don't think Vi should sign the papers. I really don't. Because Ralph Angel has shown that he can be irresponsible. He was responsible in his irresponsibility, if that makes sense. But at the same time, you could have gone back to prison, which would have run the risk of Blue ended up having to go to his mother's side of the family. So I just don't think that's a good idea. The sheriff does come back with good news to let them know that the person that killed the 2 farm workers, I think one was Ignacio, and I can't remember the other's name. But either way, a meth addict robbed them and killed them. So if they had just probably left sooner, like Charlie said, I think that probably would have been best. Remy lets Charlie know his intentions with her, and that is, girl, I want to get with you. I want to be with you. And we all grown here, and I don't give a damn if anybody sees. My wife dead, you separated from your husband, let's make it happen. I was like, and excuse me, I was like, oh, girl, he kind of made my panties wet. Ooh. I said, my, that Mr. Remenue will make a girl lose all control. So that pretty much was that episode. There wasn't a lot to it, but there was a lot to it. Now, let's flash forward to episode 10, which is So Far. If you remember from the last episode, Sister Kiki done rolled up on Mr. Micah, honey. And she has let it know that she is interested in, like, she always says little things, but I'm like, that's typical teenage stuff. Like, well, you know, I see you got a lot of followers on Instagram. If you want to find me, just find me with my Instagram sign on. I was like, oh, you gonna get you a little country girl, Micah. So when we open up this episode, Micah is at St. Josephine High School watching Sister Kiki, honey. She is the dance captain, and she is making them girls work. And she was like, I see you that came to see me. I was like, yes, he did, girl. As a matter of fact, just to wrap up their little love storyline, I truly believe that what is going to end up happening is that Mr. Micah is going to end up wanting to go to public school so he can be close to Sister Kiki, honey. Because he gets devastating news that there will not be a prep school interview because, unfortunately, the situation that was on the phone that his ex-girlfriend lied there has followed him all the way from California to Louisiana. My thought on this is that why did Charlie not fight this while in California and get it cleared up? Because it's not his penis that was on the phone. Okay. So why is that even a problem when it wasn't really his problem? The little girl lied. Okay. I even forgot, what was her name? I forgot what the little girl's name is. But him and Kiki seemed to be developing a relationship, and she was like, you better come on and get this, because, honey, we ain't getting no younger, or something like that. I was like, oh, Jesus, she a little bit too old. She might be a little bit too mature for my baby Micah. They kissing under the tree. Kissing. All right, little Micah, don't you be bringing no babies home. Okay, don't you be bringing no babies home. So Micah is really trying to adjust to life in the country, but I think that Sister Kiki will be the perfect fix for him. A lot of things happen in this episode. We discover the story behind how the Bordelons got the property. We also discovered a connection about the Landrys. We also saw Aunt Vi get hers. Okay. Some people in the discussion group felt like Aunt Vi interferes a little bit too much, but quite frankly, I think that Aunt Vi has probably been more of a mother to them. I want to learn more about Charlie's mother. I want to learn more about Ralph Angel, and I'm assuming Ralph Angel and Nova have the same mother. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. There's bad news. So, in last episode, we just talked about that the workers were found dead in the sugarcane fields. And despite the fact that it not being Charlie and them's fault, because it wasn't the weather, it was a bad hombre that shot and killed their friends. But everybody was like, we out, deuces. So now Mr. Prosper has to figure out, and everyone else has to come together to figure out how are we going to get workers to finish out harvesting this cane. Because now people are spooked to come work here because someone got murdered. Even though they getting paid cash, I was like, it wasn't them that killed them. It was somebody else. So that was really kind of a turning point in this storyline. Vi discovers that I guess Darla and Ralph Angel damn near playing house again, and Darla is taking him to school. And Vi is like, I am still his guardian. Why is she here and taking him to school? And she was like, I'll take him to school. And Ralph Angel feels like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm like, but Ralph Angel, while you were away in your situation, which I'm still curious about that, I want to know if Darla was complicit in him being convicted. That's my question. I wonder if she's the reason why he ended up in jail. That's what I want to know. But Vi really doesn't like her. Unfortunately, there is a conversation where the private school has told Charlie that they want to meet with her and Davis to talk about Micah. And Vi says that, I'm not a fan of Davis's, but like it or not, that's still that child's father. And Ralph Angel overhears this, and he feels some type of way because it's like, wait a minute, but Darla is not your favorite person either, but that's still Blue's mother. I think the situations are different. While it is nasty and downright sinful that Davis was buying hoes and shit, but he didn't take Michael with him while he was buying hoes. Darla had that baby in a sweaty ass motel room with men on top of her and she high and the baby over there on the side like a loaf of bread. The two are not the same. Ralph Angel gets in his feelings when he can't sign permission slips for his own son. Miss V has to break him the news, and then once again he confronts Aunt Vi about it. Hollywood's talking to him and talking about she still won't sign. And, Hollywood signed some papers himself. He has finally filed for divorce to prove that he is serious with Aunt Vi about getting a divorce. So he got his thing started, and ultimately Aunt Vi ends up giving in to not only Hollywood's random act of kindness by bringing her African violets to plant in her garden. Aunt Vi also finally gives up the ghost on Blue. I don't think she should have, quite frankly. It's still too shaky. I personally think that Ralph Angel should wait until he gets off parole, because you never know what could happen. You never know what could happen. But it is what it is. The ink has dried. Maybe they'll hold on to the papers for a little while longer. I don't know. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think Aunt Vi should have signed over Blue to Ralph Angel, given his situation? It's over between Chantel and Nova. It is over before it even began. Essentially, they get into a little tit for tat spat about how Nova wants to handle her business and how Chantel thinks she should run her business because, they're revolutionary, and it's just sad. I was like, damn. Honestly, with Nova and Chantel, you have two independent, strong women uh, who have the same purpose, intent to help, but they have their own way of doing it. And I think that Chantal, in some ways, did not read that on Nova, but anyone looking and seeing the interactions of how Nova is would have been able to pick up on that. Eventually Chantal comes to the house to get her stuff. I was like, damn, and all that time you know remove stuff in. Y'all move fast. What the hell? And so basically that's when she reads Nova and gives her a little food for thought, which I thought was a bit much. So Chantal was really kind of upset about Calvin. She says, I saw the picture in your nightstand of the white man. So I guess, as she talking about, he's a cop. And how can you say that you're about the cause when you messing around with someone that works for a racist police, a police department? And so Nova's like, it's not like that. When I like somebody, I like the person, not about their profession. And that's when Chantal hits her with, educated, conscious people profess who they are. And through their profession, what we do says what we believe in. I was like, Lord, see, that's why y'all can't be together. It's just too much wokeness in this relationship. So yeah, maybe it's best that y'all part, because both of y'all have this attitude of it's my way or the highway. So maybe we'll see Chantal again. I hope so, because I enjoy seeing Reagan Gomez back on the screen. I've always thought she was a great actress, and I think she's a pretty awesome person, because just to plug this in here, if you go to her YouTube channel, she has some great programming, surviving. And the problem is it's a web series called Surviving. It's kind of like about the apocalypse and stuff, but it's really good. And there's some other shows and web series she's produced. And honey, if I had some money, I would definitely donate. But right now, Miss Sophia the Diva is on the broke and nearby homeless tour, just to bite off a little bit of what Justin J would say, okay? So I've got to get my money back up and find my second stream of income again. So just wanted to plug that in there, but it's really good to see Reagan Gomez back on the screen again. Let's see what else happened in this episode. Vi, it's her time to shine. It's her time to live. I don't know why she went by the high yellow, but baby, Clive, the manager, needed her. He's like, Vi, get in here, girl. Oh my God, the health inspector is here. He was like totally wigging out. And so she was like, okay, well, I know where all that is. But he was like, but I need your help. She said, I don't work here no more. And he was like, well, basically, she got what she wanted, because a friend in need is a friend indeed. Baby, she told him she wanted to be manager with benefits. And he told me, I don't even pay my own family benefits. She said, well, that's not my problem if you want my help. Child, he gave in. So Vi is getting hers, because unfortunately, Charlie said something that kind of empowered her. But when they were talking about the private schools earlier, you know, of course, Charlie has gotten so caught up in being this wealthy black woman living the Hollywood lifestyle basketball husband, until she forgets where she comes from. And so she was, Vi was saying she couldn't believe that a school was going to cost $36,000 a year. And she was like, Charlie says, we just want to make sure that our son has every possible chance to be a success in life. And, you know, it just was a bad conversation. And so, because she was like, so Charlie was like, well, we want to afford him every opportunity because we don't want him to end up like, you know. And then Vi was like me. And so because of that, Vi got a little empowered, honey, and she went to the high yellow just at the right moment and got her job back. And girl went out and got her a new outfit too. A diva printed sheet. I said, girl, you work in that leopard print. I mean, that zebra print. Of course, honey, I think all animal prints are neutral. You just have to know how to pair them properly, okay? And you can always go to my Instagram for suggestions about fashion as well, which is Miss Sophia the Diva. So when Vi returns to the high yellow as the manager, it's so funny. Everybody is doing a deep cleanse of the restaurant. You know Roberta messy ass is there. Child, she told her, Roberta, baby, put your back into it. I was like, that's right, girl, put some elbow grease in there, just like you did when you were all up on her nephew. Let us not forget. Charlie, being the negotiating diva that she is, high dealing, she has found that she cannot win over Jacob Boudreaux. She meets with him at the meal. Now, what I want to know is when she was in the office at this initial meeting, what was it she was looking at on that bookshelf? At the very top, there was like one of those flags that they give you when you've been in the military, like some sort of commendation flag. There were some ducks, but then there was a replica of a house, like a plantation or something. And she seemed very fascinated with it. So she sits down with him. Dude is offering a very, what I think is an unreasonable deal. It's a 60-40 split. That's not fair. And that's not equitable. As a matter of fact, it's unconscionable. And in some respects, it's almost like you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So Charlie, of course, is trying to wheel and deal, but Jacob's not going to budge. This is what it is. This is the standard pattern of practice that they have in their area. This is how they do business. This is what is accepted. She gets a tour of the meal. He seems to be a little flirty with her, too. And I'm just like, ooh, but what about Mr. Remy? But then again, girl, you might as well use what you got. Okay. So after this meeting, she finds out some interesting things about the Landry Boudreaux connection. There's been a lot of in-marrying, a connection of families, so to speak. Which is common in the South, in small towns. They kind of held on to that blue blood type of business dealing. Basically, it's like an oligarchy. You only have two people that you can go to in your area to get meal work done. The Landrys or the Boudreaux. Tied together by marriage. Tell me that ain't some bullshit, okay? So if I tells them it's their world, it's their world and we're just living in it. Plus, Jacob tells her in the next meeting that I have an offer you can't refuse. I said, whenever some shit start off like that, run. That shit don't sound good. Run, Charlie. So it leaves you wondering what the hell is happening, right? But now, let's talk about this Boudreaux-Landry borderline connection. Jacob shows her a map. Essentially, it looks as though the borderline property is kind of landlocked. So I'm like, why are you making her an offer she can't refuse? Are you trying to say that they need to get a right-of-way easement? Like, are you trying to buy the property? What's going on? Well, we find out that there is a dark history between the Bordelons and the Landrys. First of all, he made her an offer of $4 million. Prosper and Aunt Vi tell the story of the Bordelon massacre, is what I'm going to call it, essentially. And these stories are not uncommon. The Landrys owned the Bordelon family, okay, during slavery. And then they became sharecroppers. A lot of the Bordelons moved up north, which is another thing that's not uncommon. You wonder why a lot of black people are up north, like Wyoming and Michigan and Ohio. Those places were industrial, revolutionary. I mean, you name it, it was made in America, made there. That's why Detroit was Motor City at one time. And so they kept making money, sending money back home. Well, the Landrys fell on hard times, baby. And guess who they had to sell them 800 acres to? The Bordelons. But when they got back on their feet, they wanted it back. And they wanted it back even at the price of murdering 3 Bordelon men, including the Bordelon grandfather, for which Ralph Angel was named Grandpa Angel. Okay? It's a dirty deed. And so now we know why the Landrys and the Boudreaux act and interact with the Bordelons the way that they did. Because all along, Charlie said something happened here. And I'm trying to figure out what's really going on. And so that's when the story Prosper and Aunt Vi told them. And that's why Papa Ernest didn't want them to sell the property. He left them the property because he blood, sweat, and tears, even up into death. He had that property for his children because family was lost. It's blood on that land. But I'm glad to see that this story seems to be what is going to unite the Bordelon siblings. In the previews coming up, we see that Miss Charlie is working her thing, honey, because she's like, we are not running. We are taking a stand. I will not back down. And that's right, girl. Fight for your land. So that's all I've got. I am so loving this show. Again, thank you, Oprah. Thank you, Ava, for bringing us this show. Queen Sugar, I've been Miss Sophia the Diva. Make it a great one.